host friends. We'd like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for this webinar that we're going to be holding today. We're going to be going over the features of the brand new PowerSimulator 6.3, which is our latest release. And for those of you that have been with us for a while, this is the first time that we've ever done anything like this. And so we're pretty excited to actually have the opportunity to share all of the new and exciting features that will be coming out with this next release. And to give you guys kind of for some of you, to give you a preview of all the stuff that has to come, and to hopefully give you an idea of what exactly the new tools are that you'll have to work with. So some logistics about this webinar itself. If you haven't already noticed, you can only see yourself as an attendee. Like I said, that's the way that it's set up. And all of you are muted to edit this for time and content. We've revoked all of your talking privileges. Sorry about that. But we do encourage you to ask questions. So if you have any questions at any point, you can submit those. There should be a Q&A tab in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And if you could direct those questions to the host, which is Calvin, he's actually going to be going through those. And at the end of this webinar, we will get through as many of your questions as we possibly can. We do ask that you keep them relevant to specifically the features that are in this PowerSimulator 6.3 release. If you have general questions about the simulator or anything else, Aida or myself will be more than happy to talk to you about that. But we'll do that offline in a different environment. So the first thing that we want to tell you is we do actually have a user guide available for download, and we'll provide that information to everyone who is attending this WebEx today. We should have that available on our website very shortly, so we'll let you know all about that. And for those of you that don't have the 6.3 release, between now and the end of the year or the end of your renewal term, we'll be coordinating these updates with you. So we'll be working with Aida and myself to make sure that you have the latest PowerSimulator release. We do want to give a shout out to our beta testers, PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, here in the Bay Area of San Francisco. They're actually doing a restoration drill right now with this brand new release, and it's getting very good reviews. So we're very happy about that. People have a lot of fun with the things to say. So we do want to thank them for finding new and creative ways to break our toys, because it makes us do better, and we really do appreciate that. Your Masters of Ceremonies, as I like to call us for the day. I'm pretty sure most of you know who we are. I am Jackie Perlette. I'm with Incremental Systems, and I'm our trading specialist and account manager for all of our West Coast and Texas accounts. And joining me this morning is the lovely Aida Mosier.
Hi. Hi, guys. I'm Aida. Most of you know me. I'm the project manager for PowerData, and you normally can work with me if you're already our customers, all through getting your system from the very beginning to get it ready to go and turn up.
So Aida's going to be helping me out today while we go over some of our new features. So in order to show you everything that we want to show you, some of you may be familiar with our new Cascadia system. For those of you that are not, this is what we're going to be using to demonstrate our features today. Cascadia is a brand new generic power system that I've spent the last couple of years being the lead developer on, and where Cascadia came from was we needed a generic system that we could provide some more realistic training for. So I'm not going to go a whole lot into this, just so you have an idea. Cascadia is, we laid it out geographically across the state of Washington. So you'll see that there are 3 different balancing areas. So over on the left-hand side, the west, there's the red balancing area is the Puget area. And then you'll see on the eastern side to the north, there's a Duluth area in the blue, and there is a Columbia area in the yellow. Not too important for today, but just so you know, we'll be using this generic system so that there's no security infringements or anything. All of the stations in this system are taken from my experiences from systems or from substation layouts in the west, in Alaska, and from Texas. And we've laid these out over actual cities in the state of Washington, but all of the substations that are there and the power plants are typical for the area, but not in the exact places that they are. So the names have been changed to protect the innocent, but it still looks like something that can be relatively realistic. And we found this to be a very effective training tool for for demonstrating everything from very simple to some rather complex concepts. So that's what we're going to be using today to show you the new features of PowerSimulator 6.3. So just to give you a quick overview of the things that we're going to be talking about, we have some different ways of bringing in your load curve peaks, some displays of your base case names, the ability to zero your interchange, editable event scenario times. Yay, I know some of you have been waiting a very, very long time for that. The ability to bulk import and export files. We have sitting reserve. Again, yay, something that's been on the books for some time now. We have the first generation alarm table and our newest and I think our coolest feature, our quick map. So we're going to go through each one of these and show you how everything works. So Aida, I'm going to let you get started with load per piece.
Okay, guys.
Sorry.
We're having a...
There you go. Aida doesn't like Windows.
I know it's got problems with the Windows machine. So the load per piece, as you all know, every time that you change your model or an RTS version, and by model change I mean as little as adding a system map, for example, or adding breakers, your previous base cases will be invalidated. We have been able to recover most of the information with the text cases. The text cases were not designed to keep local peaks. As training has been evolving within the past couple of years, you guys have started getting more creative and more complex on your training and started playing with the local peaks. Well, we included at this point on the text cases, you're going to be able to save your local peak from one version of the RTS or one model to the next one. And I'm going to give you a demo of how to do that. Okay. So right here, I have a PowerSimulator 6.2 version. And what I want you to pay attention to is I'm going to load my base case. Sorry. I'm going to bring up a base case. It's called local peaks. I'm going to load it. And you're going to take a look at what is my local peak here. It's different than what I have on my base case 0. So what I'm going to do now, this is what most of you will do, going from one version of your RTS or to the model to the newest one. I'm going to export my base case, this local peak. Now I'm going to go to PowerSimulator 6.3. Actually, let me get rid of that guy. There's one different cookie. I'm going to go ahead and on 6.3, I'm going to bring my local peak. I'm going to go to base cases, and I'm going to import my local peak base case. Now the only reason why I'm going through this is I know it can be a little tricky to get the full concept across of keeping the local peak and the changes. So we're going to go ahead right now. Now this guy right here shows you which is my original local peak on 6.2. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load the base case that I just imported. need to look at the differences. It is not keeping, it's not respecting. I have 2.2 in here, and I have 2.1 in my original case. Now, in this case, it's not that big of a difference. However, if I went ahead and I had, instead of only 3 zones, I have 30 zones, and the difference in my local peak comes up to 1 or 2 of them at about 5,000 megawatts. You know what's going to happen when you dump 5,000 megawatts on your load and you don't have enough generation to support it. So what this is going to do for me, 6.3 is going to do for me, so I'm going to go ahead right now, and I'm going to change my peak to 195. And I'm going to increase this one to 1200. And I'll let it stabilize a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new base case. And it's going to be personal, so I don't use first. I have 195, 5,000, and 1200. So I'm going to stop my session, and you can see that the peak went back to the base case 0. If I load my base case, with as a text case, which is what you're going to load it automatically to your model or your RTS version. And I have 195, 5,000, and 1,200. So this will make sure that by the time that you're migrating from one version of your model or the RTS to the latest one, there's still not a 100% guarantee that you're going to keep your base cases, but it gets you a lot closer to keeping your base cases stable as a model migration. Now going into that direction too, when you're moving your base cases, so they give me one quick second, and we're going to go to the base case name. As you know, in the past, every time that you load a base case, you have base case 12 loaded. This creates a little bit of confusion because you don't know exactly which is the base case that you're currently loading. So what we've done right now, there's 2 things that you're going to notice. The first one is that when you load a text case, in case you haven't noticed before, it tells you that you are actually loading a text case. And I apologize for a second. Give me. So we're going to go now and go to base cases, load base case. I'm going to keep the local peak. And you can see that it says base case local peak restore. So this gives you the power to know exactly which is the base case that you're loading at any given time. What
one of the new features that we have implemented is the ability to zero your interchange. Now, I know that previously, especially during a blackout condition or any kind of a blackout restoration, every single one of your areas covers a 48-hour period. So there's a today-tomorrow interchange schedule that's set up. And if you want to change that, you have to change every single hour for every single control area. And if you have a lot of control areas or a lot of zones, that can take you pretty much forever. So what we've done now, what we have implemented in the new PowerSimulator 6.3, well, let's say we find ourselves in a blackout condition and we're going to run a black start restoration. So you can see I've loaded my base case blackout. Let me go ahead and get us started. And we'll see on our map, just to confirm, that we are in fact blacked out. We have no voltage, we have no flow, we have no color. So our system is indeed de-energized. So at some point during this, what we're going to want to make sure our operators do is going to be to zero our interchange schedule. And you can see that we have a 1,500 megawatt interchange coming into our Puget area from our Palouse area. And we have this set up for basically 48 hours, so all the way through today and tomorrow. And like I said previously, you would have to say, okay, I'm at 10:02 on my sim time, so I need to go to my hour ending 11 and change all of these interchanges for interchange schedules for both companies. And that takes a pretty long time. So now what we have the ability to do is right here in the bottom left, we hit the zero out, and it's going to ask, are you sure you wish to set all of your scheduled values to zero? I tell it okay, and it's going to zero that across the board for today and tomorrow. Sometimes it takes it a second. But it will zero out everything for both sides for all of your companies all of the time. So it's a pretty quick way to actually be able to get rid of your schedules without having to go through and change every single individual one. Now for right now, all we can do is zero them. Coming up in the future, we're going to try and work with some ability to import and export schedules so that you can change them more quickly in like a spreadsheet format. But for right now, we think the zero out is pretty cool because if nothing else, it'll give you the ability to completely get rid of your schedules when you don't need them. For example, during black start. All right, one of my other favorite new features is the editable event scenario time. This has been one that's been a long time coming. In the past, when you create an event, when you record the event, everything records in real time. And the time that it takes you to open a set of breakers, that's how long it takes to record that event. So you have some ability to go in and manipulate space and time in order to make the time match up. If you had an event that you wanted to happen over a couple of hours, you could speed up or slow down your simulation time to make that happen, but that's really kind of a giant pain, and it requires entirely too much thinking for my personal taste. So we decided to remove some of that heartache and allow you to just create events and then edit the delta time. So I'm going to actually do that for you right now. I'm going to pull up actually an energized base case so that it makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to bring up my demo base case, and I'm going to go ahead and start my simulator. Now, the example that I'm going to show you is we're going to actually remove a 500 kV line from service between our Wenatchee station and our Everett station. I'm going to get those pulled up. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be opening these two breakers, the 50-032 and 50-035 on the Wenatchee side, and then at the other end of the line on the Everett side, the 50-030 and 50-040. So I'm going to record my event scenario the same way that I always have. I'm going to go to Event Scenarios and go to Edit to Create. On my edit event scenarios, you'll see all of the ones that have already been created. I'm going to hit my create. Now I'm going to record my event scenario. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit start. I'm going to take my breaker operation. I probably should have left that up so you can see. So you can see as I manipulate my breakers. They're being recorded on my event scenario recorder. Okay, so you'll see I've opened both of my breakers on my Everett side, and I've opened both of my breakers on my Wenatchee side. I verified that they're open. My line has turned white, indicating that it's energized, and there's no flow. So I'm done recording my event, so I'm going to go ahead and hit stop. I'm going to save this as my Wenatchee to Everett line out, and I'm going to hit save. I'm going to get my feedback that that's been saved, and I'm going to close out my event recorder window. Now I'm going to go back to my edit scenarios. And this is going to, again, you'll see my Wenatchee to Everett line out. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to click on edit. When I click on edit, it's going to show me each of my breaker operations. I'll see my 030 and 040 breakers in Everett, and my 50-032 and 50-035 breakers in Wenatchee. Now you'll see it took me about 18 seconds to record all of these breaker actions. I don't really like that. I want this to happen much more quickly than that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my delta time to make it 0. So the delta time, this is going to be how long from the time you hit start on your event scenario that it takes for these actions to happen. So all I simply do is I double click, I change the value, which you'll see turns blue. I made those two 0, and I'm going to make this one 2 seconds. So I double click, change the value, and hit enter. Now you'll see my Everett breakers will open pretty much as soon as I start my event, and my Wenatchee breakers will open just a couple of seconds later. I'm going to hit save. I'll get a dialog window that says my layout is saved. I hit OK, and I'm good. Now you'll see that these values have turned black, which means that it's saved and it's good to go. I can verify that once I close this out by going back to my event scenario window. I select it, and I'm going to load my event. And it's going to tell me all of the actions that are going to happen and how far from the delta time each of those will occur. So if you have the opportunity to play with this, you know that it's pretty exciting. And if you've created event scenarios and had to manipulate time in order to do that, you'll see that this is a much more efficient way to create scenarios that happen over long events. Because all you have to do, if you have, if you're simulating, let's say, a storm coming through your system and you want lines to go out over a period of time, or for generators to trip offline, or whatever it is that you want to do, you can simply record all of those events in probably a 20-minute window and make it happen over 2 or 3 hours. I'm pretty excited about event scenarios because it makes my life much easier, and I hope that it will make your life much easier too. I'm not going to run that because you guys should be pretty familiar with how it runs, but it'll operate just exactly the same as event scenarios in the past have operated. But that editable time is pretty darn good.
Okay, looking for exports. This takes us to basically sorry, we're cutting out. Ada was yelling at me. Getting into you. This is my turn. So bulking for exports. When we're talking about the bulking for exports in this case, we're talking about base cases, event scenarios, and quick math. So this will make your life a lot easier into downloading all of your base cases, not one at a time, but all of your base cases, event scenarios, and your quick math, and create a backup for all of your information. You can do it depending on training or depending on your specific needs. But what that will do for you, like we have created right now several event scenarios and base cases. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my base cases, export, and it will give me the list with all of my base cases, personal or share. In this case, as you can see, I have several of them. Many times we do a lot of base cases where we're preparing for training, but at the moment that you get to the train, your brick or your online server to the training, you may not want to have all of them in there. But you want to keep them for a later use. So you can go ahead and select one, and then hit Control and a left click, and make sure that they're selected, and go ahead and export. We're going to save it, and the nice thing that you're going to see here is BC will tell you that it's a base case zip for the model Cascadia and the group Cascadia. And it's a regular zip file. Now, why we made it into a zip file? We made it into a zip file because that would be easy for you that would be very easy for you to edit. Put them in my downloads. If I have it like that, I can simply go to Windows. And those are all of my base case. What I can do with this is delete one, or add to it. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all of them, lock out and do Shift, Control left, and I'm going to download every single one of my base keys. One, and it's going to be download. So I'm going to go ahead and download. And remember that it's going to change the name of this one, and this will allow me to do a lot of things. This is going to be my test. And I can create all of my backups depending on what I need with a different name, as long as I keep the BC, which is base case. This is what PowerSimulator is going to need to recognize. But once you have there, you can go ahead and see which are the base cases that you're downloading. So I have my 3 base cases here. Let's go ahead and do it again. Base cases, export. Select all of them. I delete what I have in here. I'm going to export all of them. Into my downloads area. If I go to it, it's going to show every single one of my base keys in just one click. Now the nice thing about having it in a zip file is that I can mix and match. I can take some of them out if I want to, or add to it. No problems at all. Now we're going to go ahead to demonstrate how to import them, and we're going to delete them all. Go to base case, load base case, and we are just going to delete all of our base cases. A little bit of a scary moment when you're doing that.
So make absolutely sure that you have all that loaded before you delete all.
So I have right now no base cases. We're going to go back and say import base cases. Actually, to make things a little bit funnier. Sorry, I'm running to use Windows right now too. At the same time that I'm doing this, So I'm going to go to my download, and we're going to create a couple of different things. Let's just say we have our test Cascadia that only has the blackout, and we have our Cascadia one with everything. So we're just going to get the blackout, the DC4. We're going to go from here to here. We're going to move those over here. To copy that. Okay. We're going to skip this part for now.
She's a bit of a copy.
Learning how to use Windows. So I do apologize for it. I'm going to import my base cases now. It's going to be on the share. I'm going to go to my Cascadia. Loading the file, so now I'm going to go to my base cases, no base case, and I have every single one of my base cases. Now, again, once having them on the sync files, you can mix and match and decide which ones you want to download and which ones you want to put back there. So the event scenarios are going to be basically the same thing. You're going to be able to go to export and import as many as you want, or import them all at once. Same thing is going to, difference is going to be event scenarios are going to have the prefix ES. Everything else is going to be the same. But once you have that, then you can definitely go ahead and just mix and match whatever you want and add or remove things out of your event scenarios, which makes, or your base cases, which makes it really nice. Now, to go to the quick map, you're going to go ahead and talk about it, import and export, by the time that we get to the quick map.
Okay, so another new addition that we have to 6.3 is the ability to see your sitting reserve. I know that this is another one that's been a long time coming, because previously you actually had to do math to do that, and no one really likes to do math because it sucks. So there are two different places that we have shown you spinning reserves. You can see the reserves for your entire control area on the AGC summary, and you can also see the reserves for each machine on the generator megawatt control table. So I'll show you an idea of what that's going to look like. I'm going to pull up my demo base case because I like that one. And we're going to take a look at our AGC summary. All three of my control areas.
You kicked up like that, right?
Okay, so you'll see that this looks pretty much exactly the same as it always has, except that right here we have a new, a new column called spinning reserve. Now this doesn't, all this takes into account is the generation that you're actually using taken from the max generation available. It doesn't, there's no kind of, we don't have dynamic reserve or anything else built into that. It's just, it's a straight calculation of the maximum that you have available compared to what you're actually using. But that's still pretty darn handy. You can see in our Puget area, we've got 1,236 megawatts of spinning reserve available. And in the Palouse area, we have almost 1,500. And in Columbia, we have 492 megawatts available. So that'll give you an idea of exactly how much breathing room you have in your particular area. Well, that's great information, but what about if I want to know which machines have the most availability left on them? Well, we can find that on our generator megawatt control table. So you'll see that this has every generator in every station in the system. Here on the far right-hand side, you'll see that you have your spinning reserve your spinning reserve column. Now I can sort this from high to low or low to high. I'm going to say, okay, which units have the most available spin on them? I can see my Everett units have almost 400 megawatts available. They're not very heavily loaded right now. That's good to know where I've got some wiggle room. The same with my units in Yakima in the Columbia area. Now, because this is a table, and chances are you'll probably be operating in your different areas, let's take this, and we're going to filter this down to, say we just want to look at our Palouse area. That's where the majority of our generation is at in the system. I'm going to filter down to Palouse. It's going to show me all of my available resources and how much they have for reserves. So like I said, the spinning reserve is basically the difference between the max megawatt and the schedule. So let's say we're gonna derate one of our units down. And if let's say for some reason I only have 50 megawatts available on this generator. So if I change my max to 50, you'll see my reserve was at 71. Now as soon as I change that for my Elmer generator unit 1, you'll see that actually bumped back down here, and it only has 28 megawatts of spinning reserve available. So that's a pretty easy way that you can see exactly where you have generation. Now, because I took 50 megawatts off of that, if I go back to my AGC summary, if you remember, I had 1,498 megawatts of spinning reserve available in the blue area, and now I only have 1,448. So you'll see that change reflected for your entire control area as well as that machine. And that's what we have for spinning reserves. So you don't have to do any math anymore, and at least you'll have an idea of exactly where you have the most amount of room. All right, one of the brand newest things that we have is our first generation alarm table. So what this has done is when we first came out with alarms in, I believe it was 6.1, I think is where we first brought in alarms. It was great, and everybody was really excited about it, but the only thing is that there were a lot of alarms, and all of the alarms were shown in the event log, and it could get really, really cluttered in a hurry, and it made for kind of a heartache for some of these larger companies. So what to make it a little more realistic is we decided to move the alarms out and give them their own tables, because I believe that's how most companies operate, is all your alarms are on a separate page from everything else. So now you have the ability to filter by control area, by company, by station. You have a lot of flexibility with which alarms will be received by your operators. So if you have operators playing in the role of generation, they don't have to necessarily see all of these transmission alarms that are coming in because they're probably not applicable to them. And the way that we use inclusive instead of exclusive sorting to give you a better picture of what's going on in the system. So from your event log window, our new alarms table is located right here where it says alarms. I'll bring that up. Okay, so you'll see I have all of my alarms for all of my systems. Everything is going to be shown right here. Now, this is a log, not a table, so you don't have the ability to, say, sort by time or anything because it's going to show up as a log. All of your new events are going to show up at the top, like in your regular event log. Okay, all of your alarm table controls are going to be down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So if I want to, anytime I have a breaker action, so you remember I opened those breakers in the Wenatchee, on the Wenatchee to Everett line, that's going to show up on here. So if I want to acknowledge those, I simply click on it, and I click on this check mark, and you'll see that it's going to acknowledge that alarm. Now the alarms aren't going to go away. If those breakers are reclosed, it's not going to go away, but you can acknowledge the fact that you haven't even seen that alarm. Now, if I click on the Acknowledge All, will acknowledge all of the alarms that are on my whole page. I also have the ability to clear the log by clicking on the clear log button. I'm not going to do that, so that way I can actually have some alarms to show you. But if I click on that, it's just going to, I'll do it at the end, and it'll just delete all of the alarms that are in here. Next to the clear is the download button, so you can download all these alarms as a CSV. So just like with your event log on this page, which you have the ability to download right here, you can also download your alarm, which is handy because it's just another piece of evidence that you as a trainer have to demonstrate that an operator has, performed a task or gone through a certain exercise, and you can actually get an idea of, a little more comprehensive idea of how well they did that. So, how many voltage limits did they exceed? How many things did they do that they weren't necessarily supposed to do? If you're in a situation where you have a lot of alarms coming in, or you're getting a lot of information, you can actually lock this feature. The same way that you can you're freezing the alarms is basically what you're doing. The same way you can in your event log with the freeze button right here. It's just a toggle feature so that you can take a look at what's on your screen right in front of you, and then you can unfreeze it to read the new messages as they're coming in. So you can lock and unlock. Just remember when you're done to unlock it, otherwise you won't actually see anything new, and that could be a challenge. All right, so in the bottom left-hand corner is going to be where we have the ability to filter our alarm. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. So you have your choices between all and any up here in the corner. So let's say that I want to see
the all and any before we go back, before we go forward. All and any, all will mean and or exclusive. That means that if all of the criteria that you're going to put under that all box has to be met in order for the timer to give you any result. Any is an inclusive all and or and, which means that it doesn't really matter as long as one of the criteria that you're given it will be put in there.
So let's say, no, that's fine. So let's say, for example, I want to see alarms for my Palouse area, but I also want to see anything that comes in at Wenatchee at Everett as well. At Everett. The Everett station is in the Puget area. So if I was using this all feature and I had Palouse and Everett selected, then it will only give you everything that is within the Everett station in the Palouse control area. Since that doesn't exist, it will not give you any results. So now when I do it with using the any, I will see everything for the Palouse area, and I'll also see everything that's associated with Everett. So you'll see right here, I have these two notifications that I had breaker operations in the Everett station. So before, we've always had the ability to sort through the different tables, but it was always basically using the all. So you would only see things that were when all of the different conditions were met. So any gives you a little bit of flexibility in what you can see. So you have the ability to say, if you wanted to monitor your wind farms, for example, there are 2 wind farm stations in the Palouse area and 2 wind farm stations in the Columbia area. So I can actually monitor just those stations and not have to worry about anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you the clear. I'm going to go ahead and clear my rows. It's going to give me a pop-up that says, am I sure I want to do that? And then it should clear all of my alarms. It doesn't want to right now. Not thinking about it. So it will actually clear all of my alarms on the page the same as it does on this log here. There we go. It's thinking about it. We're on hotel internet, so I promise it works. Okay, so I think that was what we had for our alarm table. Like I said, this is the first generation, so there's still quite a bit of work to be done with it. And we always appreciate your feedback. So if you have anything for us, please do let us know. Okay, so my personal favorite feature, and one that is near and dear to my heart because I've spent quite a lot of time working with it, are the quick maps. So quick maps are pretty cool because if you've had this system for some amount of time, and you have your own system map, you know that they can be, even for small systems, they can be rather cumbersome, and they can be quite large, and they have a lot of information that may or may not be necessary or even helpful for the task that you're trying to accomplish. So quick maps is the solution to all that. They're far less cumbersome, and they're a far more efficient way to get an enhanced overall situational awareness of what's going on with your system. Probably the biggest thing about quick maps is you create them in runtime. You don't have to go to the DTE. You don't have to call us and pay us a bunch of money to build you this enormous map that we then have to export into your model, which, like Aida talked about, that's a model change. It'll probably invalidate your previous base cases, and it kind of makes everything a giant headache. So with these quick maps, you can create them as you're doing a training. It makes it very easy to say you want to just make a map of your black start path. So I'm going to start at my black start generator. I'm going to make a line to my secondary. If I have a nuke plant, I'll make a line to my nuke plant. Whatever it is that you want them to see, or a lot of times for hydro operators, they'll say, okay, here's your hydro system and how it connects into the rest of the transmission system. And it gives them a view that they wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. And you can do that relatively quickly. I mean, you can make 20 quick maps in just a couple of hours, depending on the size of them. With the quick maps, you get a much more accurate representation of your parallel lines. In the previous maps, and I'll show you an example just in case you've forgotten, it can be kind of difficult to see where you have parallel lines because of the way that the lines themselves have to be built. You have a station finder, and we'll show you how to search for stations throughout the map, because when you have these large maps, you can get a little bit lost in all of it. So you can simply type in a station name, and it'll zoom in center to that actual station. One of the cool things that we've got is if you are using an online server, so if you're using our cloud service, it's possible to get some geographic alignment of your station. So if your station names match up to actual locations, like the city names, then it will actually place those geospatially with all of the connected stations. So it can give you kind of a high-level view of where exactly at least some of your stations are. Because, a lot of times we're not familiar with the systems themselves. We don't know how things are laid out, so we just kind of make it up. So with this Google Maps, it's a good tool both for us and for you to get at least the skeleton of what your quick map is going to look like. And you also have the ability to zoom. Because this uses a different type of graphic interface, you can actually use your shift and your mouse wheel, which is not your control in your mouse wheel, that's your browser zoom, and we still tell you not to use that because it will make everything look wonky. But if you use your shift and your mouse wheel only on a quick map, you'll have the ability to zoom in and out. And I'll be sure to show that to you right now. Okay, so the first thing, let's step back in time for a second, and let's look at the way we used to lay out our system maps. This is a map that was created in DE. So you'll see we've got our generation stations, our substations, we've got our station names, we've got these pie charts with all these designators on them, and megawatt flows and megavar flows, and it's kind of a mess. And this is a relatively small area. I mean, there's only like 15 stations in this area, but look how much room this whole map takes up. And you can see that I've got parallel lines here, but it's just kind of messy and it's kind of big. So this is our Palouse area. So I built a quick map for the Palouse area. So let's something like this. So I can take that, and I could have actually compacted this a little bit more too. This is a great map. I did it in a hurry. So now you can see I have all of my same stations. You can see I have where my parallel lines are. I still have my same generations are circled, so stations are squares. The voltage profile works the same. Your half blue, half yellow is 100% of the nominal. And you can see I've got, for example, here my 4 lines coming out of Liberty with my megawatt flow is headed in that direction. See the little arrow on the end of that line. And then instead of the pie charts, we have these bar charts that are representative of NVA flow. So basically, the more green that fills up this chart, the more flow you have. You can see on here we're probably about 40% loaded. So as this gets higher and higher, you'll see more and more green. When it actually turns to an overload, the whole arrow will turn yellow, and your overload will be indicated in red. So if it's a 10% overload, you'll have a yellow arrow with just a little bit of red. So it makes it a lot easier to actually get an idea of what's happening without having all the clutter of this previous map.
So one of the things that we have been asked, this gives you it's a lot less cluttered or a lot neater, and you can get information just by visual. But if you actually need to get information from one of those lines, you can right-click on top of the line. So left click. Right there, you can go to attributes, and it will tell you the MBA rating, the nominal KP. So even though you have a very visual aspect of your line, really all of the rest of the information is at your fingertips, only if you need it, instead of putting all of it in there.
Yeah, so this is a great way to clean this up. This isn't even a very big map. We'll build a little bit better one here in a second. So with my quick map, I have the ability to toggle on and off my voltage levels. So this map is kind of small, but let's say you have a big map where you have everything from 500 down to 60 kV. And that can get very cluttered in a hurry. So I have the ability to turn off any of these voltage levels that I want. So you'll see right now I'm only left with my 500. All I can see right now is my 500 line in this system. So you'll see as I toggle these voltages on and off, they will turn red when they're off, and they'll be green when they're on. So I'm going to bring back my 230 and my 115. So a lot of times when you're creating maps for an area, all of your 60 or 69 or your lower KV stations might be on there, but you don't necessarily have to look at them, and that can be pretty handy. So if I want to find any of my stations, let's say I don't know where my Elmer station is. I can click on my Elmer station, and it's going to highlight it with a magenta box right around it. Now, if you have a very long station list, you can start typing. You have to start typing in all caps. And it will filter down and bring up the station name. You can see right there is my Wenatchee station. It's got a magenta colored box around it, which is very handy when you have large maps for systems that have several hundreds of stations. Now when I'm done, I can click on my clear selection, and it will take that box away. I can also switch to, I only have one quick map right now, but if I have multiple quick maps, I can also switch to any other quick map. They'll pop up right here in this drop down. So I can get to my quick map from my event window. I go to system map, and I can go to my quick map. I can also bring up my station 1 line, my quick map. So I'm going to bring up my Wenatchee station, and you'll see that station 1 line is going to pop up in a new window. Now previously, on the old maps, every time you click on a station, it would bring it up in a new window. And so you could end up with 15 windows open, which is when you have 80 people who have 15 windows open, there's all this stuff going on. It can actually create some system slowdown. So what we have now is every time you click on a station, it's going to bring it up in the same window. So if I click on my Rockford station, it's not bringing up a new window every single time. It's using the same window, which is pretty handy when it comes down to your window management.
Now, if you actually do want to bring a new window, you have to tell it. You can right-click on it and tell it open in a new window. that will manage most of the resources of your system. A lot of the times when we get a slowdown because you have a lot of windows open, have to do with the specific machine that you're using as a client. So this way, you control the resources that you have for your specific computer. If you don't have a very busy computer, a very fast computer, you may want to keep your resources to one window that you can keep moving back and forth into your system app and do one online.
Okay, so this is what a quick map looks like, and this is how it works. So now let's learn how to make one. So under tables, we're going to go to substation, and we're going to go to quick map. And this is going to bring up our quick map editor. So as I build a quick map, I will basically have instant access to it as soon as I save it. So we're going to build a quick map. We're going to build a quick map for the Puget area. So you'll see I have my entire station list going to be shown right here. So down here in the bottom left-hand corner is again my magnifying glass. This is how I'm going to find what I'm looking for, and I want all of my Puget stations. So I'm going to sort through all of those, and this is going to show me everything in the Puget area. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can add stations to a quick map. The best way is to filter down to exactly what you want. You can do multiple layers or multiple levels of filtering. So, oops, that was what I wanted to do. So let's say I wanted to do my Puget area, but I only wanted to show a particular voltage level. If I only wanted, say, the 230 stations and Puget, I could do that. But I don't want to do that. So we're just going to do all the stations for our Puget area. Now, the easiest way to do that is to go to our content up at the top, and we're going to add all of our filtered stations. So that's going to add everything that was on this list. And you'll see everything that's added is going to turn blue, because obviously you can only add a station one single time. Now, when you initially throw all these on here, there's really no rhyme or reason to it. The way that they're figured out is the algorithm works to basically minimize the distance and the crossovers of lines. So everything's going to be kind of in a circle-y jumble, and this is where you get to decide exactly how you want to play everything out. So right now, all of these stations are floating. So as soon as I grab a station, you'll see as I grab it, all of my other stations are going to follow it around, which, if you add some music to it, can make for a really fun time if you're a nerd like me and like things like that. So now as soon as I grab a station and I place it, that station is static. So now when I move, it's placed. So now when I move at surrounding stations, you'll see that that station isn't moving anymore. So now I can start putting my map together. So this is going to show me every station in the Puget area. Now you'll see you have the station that's a diamond. So this is the Ellenberg station. When you add a substation to your quick map, it's going to show all of the connections that come out of that station. So you're going to see I have from this Redmond station, I have 3 lines to Linwood, I have 3 lines to Bellevue, and I have 1 line to Ellenberg. Now Ellenberg is outside of the area that we specified because it's in the Palouse area, but because it's connected to what we did specify, this is what's called an edge station. So all you're going to see from this station is that it exists, you'll see the name of it, and you'll see the flow on the line that connects it to the rest of the system. The same thing up here with our Everett station. This is the 500 line to our Wenatchee station. So you see my Wenatchee is a diamond, indicating that it's an edge station. Move these guys out of the way. Okay, now if I decide, let's say that I decide I want to add my Wenatchee station. I want to be able to see what's going to be going on there. I want to be able to see my voltage level, and I want to be able to get to that station. So on these edge stations, if you double click, you'll see that it adds that Wenatchee station. It's a circle indicating it's a generation station, and it created the connection down here to Ellensburg and the connection to the Elmer station, which is another gen station. But you'll see because Elmer is outside is outside the area specified, it's still a diamond. The same thing with Ellensburg. Because I haven't actually selected it, it's only showing up because it has connections to the stations that I've specified. So if I double click on that, you'll see how you can start building out. You can start building out from the same map.
I didn't know.
Let's say I decide that I don't want to see these connections, and I don't want to see what's happening at Ellensburg. If I right click on it, I can remove that station, and it'll turn it back into an edge station and get rid of its connection. So after I'm done creating my map, this is an awful map, but that's all right. So when I'm done and I have my stations placed, I'm going to save my map. This is my Puget awful map. I'll get a dialog that says my layout is saved. Now you'll see all of my stations are now static. So if I decide I want to make some changes, I can move my things around, but none of my stations will be following. Let's say if I want to move a handful of stations, I can actually reset their position by right-clicking and going to reset, and it will allow me to move all of these stations at once, and I can place these wherever I want them to be. Okay, so I made some changes to this map. Yeah, I'm going to add a station. I'm going to add my Ellensburg station. Okay, now I want to save. I want to save over this, or I want to save this as a new map. So I go up to File and I go to Save As. I'm going to call this my Puget Awful 2 map. Now you can save how your map is going to look concerning your voltage levels. If I want to turn off my 115, let's say, and I don't want to see my 115 when I pull this quick map up from the event file, I'm just going to save this without my 115. We're going to take a look at what it looks like. All right, so I've created a couple maps now I want to go look at. I'm going to close out of my editor. I'm going to go to my system map. And you'll see right here, I've got my Puget Awful and my Puget Awful 2 map. So my Puget Awful map looks just like it does when I created it. You'll see it's showing what's going on in my system right now. I can go to any one of my stations, and I can look at my one line of my individual stations. Now I'm going to pull up my Puget Awful 2 map, and remember I toggled off that 115 voltage, so you won't actually see any of those 115 lines on this station. When you say that it has the default, that means you don't have to look at it. That's pretty handy when you want to get rid of like your low voltage stations in your system map. You can just turn them off right away and no worries. If I want to bring them back on, all I have to do is click on it and you'll see that saved here.
That's so cool.
Now let's say that if I want to import and export any of these maps, if I want to delete them, I'll need to go back to Tables, go to Substations and Quick Maps, and from here I'll actually be able to pull up a map I can delete or I can download and upload them. So I'm going to download all of my maps first. And it's just going to download all of them into a zip file, just like our base cases in our event. I'm going to save that in my downloads folder. And now I'm going to delete my map. I'm going to delete my Puget Awful map. It's going to ask me, am I sure I want to? I'm going to get rid of all these, and then I'm going to re-import them. Okay, so they were all deleted. I'll look at my system maps, and yep, they're gone. Oh, wait, I'm going to go back to my quick maps, and I'm going to upload. You have the option to override your files, otherwise it'll just create a copy. So I'm going to go to my Cascadia zip file, And I'm going to upload.
Moving
And I'll go back here and we see that, yep, we have our Toulouse map and our two Fusion maps. If I pull them up, I'll see that they look just like they did when I created them. Okay, and that was pretty much the quick and dirty on QuickMap. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh, I totally forgot about the Google. That's the coolest part. This is a small one. Okay. All right, so we talked about how we can actually use Google to do some geospatial placing of our station. All right, technical difficulties. Stop behaving the way I want you. Why does this always happen in the middle of a demo? Okay, maybe we won't show you that. I don't even know how to.
So, in order to, the other thing that we have on the bulk import export is once you have your QuickMap, you're going to be able to download them.
Yeah, we did that.
I
thought it was totally professional. We know exactly what we're talking about all the time.
Believe it or not.
All right. I'm blaming us all later then.
Yeah, it's
that's okay. All right, so that's basically going to bring us to the end of our demo of the new features of 6.3, and I think we've had some questions that have come in. So we're going to go ahead and address those. So what's our first one?
So we're going to start with
converting the zero out the interchange.
Does the zero out of the interchange for the counter party? The zero out of the interchange is for every single
for every hour of every company.
There is no differences at all. It just zeroes out everything. That is one of the main reasons why it was added, is to allow it for easy zero interchange, zero reference.
Yeah, so it will interchange, or it will zero out all hours for all companies. So it's global.
So that brings us to the second question, which was, if I filter the schedule for a particular company, will it zero just for that company? No. It zeroes out for everything. It's a global zero.
Let's see. Okay, one of the other questions was, if the unit's in the manual, how can it have any reserve? Because that's the way it calculates it. I don't think it actually, right now, it doesn't actually take into account the operator. It doesn't take into account what mode the unit is in. It just looks at what the max of that unit is and compares it to what it's actually scheduled at. So it doesn't take into account if it's in manual or in LSD, but that's something that we can maybe look at in the future.
It just gives you your capability.
Yeah, it just gives you the capability of what you could have. Okay, so
the alarms, seems like it looks like the alarms were at the top. The orders were at the top. No, we can go back to the alarm timer right now and show it. It could have been just a perception. It's like it was shown as if the oldest alarm was at the top. But if you look at it, look on the scene time and to your left, and it starts scrolling down. It could have just been a perception where we were scrolling down.
Actually, I think all of these might be at the same time right now. Because remember, I cleared out the
alarm.
I cleared out the alarm table after the last demo. So here we go. All right, there we go. So we have 10:6. All these alarms came in at 10:16:23, but these alarms were in at 10.
And actually, if you go at the top, we can just go ahead and open one breaker and look at the time alert right now.
If I open a breaker in Everett, I'm going to open the breaker here. Okay, so you'll see I opened my breaker 13 at Everett, and that's at 10:44. That is in fact my newest alarm. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Okay, all right. Is an alarm generated for a reserve violation? No, it is currently not. Reserves are something that we made up. So it's not actually something that is currently tied into the PowerSimulator itself. We just created those as operational guidelines. So that's just what we tell the operators, so they have an idea to kind of make the scenario more real. But right now we don't have there are no kind of reserve alarms. Yes, it's not actually tied to the simulator. It's just an operating guideline for the trainer to give the training.
The alarms are mostly just limit violations. It looks at the limit, the top limit and the bottom limit, and it takes it out.
Okay. Okay, so the question was, in QuickMap, how would you be able to identify a line that is loaded above or below its surge impedance level, and megabars are flowing in and out of each end? And can you switch between megawatt, megabar, and MVA? Okay, there's a couple answers to this. So, like Aida showed you, when you click on a line and you look at its attributes, it'll tell you what the surge impedance loading for that line is. So in this case, it's about 685 megawatts. Now, in order to know what the actual loading on that line is, you'll have to go to one of the ends of that line and see what the flow is. You'll see I'm at 409, which is below my surge impedance loading for that line. So you basically just have to you have to click on the line, or right-click on the line to find its attributes, and then actually go into the station one line and see what the flow on that line is. There's been some back and forth about whether or not to put megawatt flows on the map, but like you saw on the previous versions of the actual map, it gets very cluttered in a hurry. So we're trying to minimize the amount of stuff that gets put on a quick map. So if you really want to know what that flow is, I can look at it this end at Wenatchee, 409, and if I go to the Everett end, I'll see that it's about 407, because honestly that flow is not going to be about the same anyway, or it's not going to be the same at both ends anyway. Okay, so that's how you would identify if you're above or below. And can you switch between megawatt, megabar, and MVA views? No, you have to go, when you go to the station, you're going to see the megawatt and megabar flow, and this is going to show you the MVA percentage. So you can see all of those things, but there's not really a way to switch between them. So it's just a matter of what you're doing.
One of the really nice things about quick maps is that they're quick. They're easy to do, they're fast to do. Once you start adding a bunch of other conditions,
it becomes a slow map.
It's not as quick to do. It's decluttered. It gives you a really good overview of your system in a graphical way. It gives you also the way to go and get the information that you need to.
Exactly. So if you want to see, for example, the direction your megawatts are flowing, you'll see that you can see that on your flow arrow, and then what your megabars are doing, you just have to look at each end of the line to get that information.
The other question is, does the set pool work? I'm assuming the set pool is on the attributes that we saw for the line. No, it doesn't work yet.
It is, again, that's one of those things that we're working on.
The only thing that you can see right now in there is the attributes, and it gives you the attribute of that particular line. All of the rest are placeholders for when we work on for the next generation of probably going to be in CSM 7. So yes, we're there right now. I know it looks pretty and you want to work on it, but don't play with any of those things just yet. Okay. All right. I think that is all that we have for questions. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, then that concludes our demo for today. I do want to
I appreciate all the time that you guys have taken because I know that you're all very busy and I just took an hour and 20 minutes out of your day. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us. And I hope that you're as excited as I am about all the new stuff coming up in PowerSimulator 6.3. And if you do have any other questions, I know that we have, there were several people on here who aren't actually our customers, and I know that some of this might have been a bit over your head if you're not familiar with PowerSimulator itself. But if you have any questions, my email and my phone number are on here, as are Aida's, and our website is at the bottom, www.eatsys.com. You can go there at any time and get all kinds of information about what it is that we do. And yeah, so thank you all very much for coming. We did, Calvin, I hope I'm right when I say this, but we did record this, and we should be posting it up on the website hopefully within the next couple of days, so that if there's stuff that you want to look back on, or for the people who aren't able to be here today, they can get the opportunity to take a look at all this. So thank you very much. Again, you don't even know how much I appreciate you all being here. And take care and call us if you have any questions.